good scenario. Later on, you'll look back and go, oh, you know, that was the best thing that ever happened. Because if that didn't happen, that's why, you know, the story about the guy's, you know, the Chinese guy's son who falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And everybody in the town says, we're so sorry for your son falling off the horse and breaking a leg. That's terrible. And the father said, maybe, maybe not. 2 days later, the army comes in and takes all the men, all the young men away to fight in a war, but they couldn't take his son because he had a broken leg. So you know, why did the guy break his leg? That somebody always says, I want a better job, 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 I want a better job. They go, this doesn't work, I just got fired. Well, you can't have a better job while you're working. You tell them that you're saying how much you hate the job, you just got fired, you got what you asked for, the better job is coming. So you can't get all flustered about it. Hope that answered the question. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. When you were talking about sending vibrations, and you send a different vibration to a grape or a brick or a glass of red wine, say, than I do, and it's scientifically proven.
Yes.
How can it not then be scientifically proven that the guy willed away and sent a good vibration to his tumor?
The question is, if we look at the vibration of this desk or the vibration of this cup or the vibration of this pencil, they're all made up of exactly the same things, as we know. They're all made up of atoms. And at the end of the day, they're all made up of electrons. So they're absolutely the same. The only difference is the combination of that. And the reason that the combinations cause it to be different is because the combinations cause the vibration to be different. And therefore, when the vibration is different, the end result of what you see, pencil, cup, desk, are different. That can be measured now with instruments. Instruments now, before electron microscopes, you couldn't see that far down. Now you can see beyond an atom. You can see an electron. And now, with further instruments, which a lot of this stuff has not yet been published, but if you take an electron and actually amplify it even further, you see that it's virtually air. That electron is nothing more than a vibration. If you kind of just imagine this electron and then blowing it up and getting it bigger and bigger with a microscope, all of a sudden you see there's nothing there. It's just vibrating at a certain point, and that's how radio beams can go through things, because there's nothing there to go through. So a tumor is there, and now a tumor is gone. No scientist has physically watched the tumor go away. So that's the answer. It's like, why can't they figure it out? Unfortunately, at this moment in time, they don't have somebody being x-rayed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The person's going to die from the x-rays. So they can see the tumor today, or 24 hours later, or a week later, or a month later. They look again and the tumor's gone. How it was and how it went, they don't know. It's like Houdini doing a magic trick. How did he escape? We couldn't see him do it. If you were there watching him escape from the handcuffs, you'd see what he was doing. So if they were watching the tumor shrink, then they could see it actually, the manifestation in real time. But at this point, there isn't any documented evidence of watching the manifestation occur. Like if you see a seed, right? You put a seed in the ground. For years, you put seeds in the ground and all of a sudden something pops up. How did that happen? And then science said, well, let's take the seed out and let's see if we can duplicate this thing so we can actually see what's occurring. Well, the problem is you can't see what's occurring inside. Now let's look at, let's see if we can see what's happening inside the seed. So that's how you start, oh, wow. I guess we can see the germination. And today, scientists still can't understand how if you take a seed and put it in a little amount of soil, right? Small little cup of soil, and you measure the exact amount of water you're putting into that soil. 6 months later, you take out the plant. Virtually the same amount of soil is still there that when you started, but you have this plant that weighs 2 pounds. You didn't put that much water in, so science can't explain how did this stuff. Where did it come from? The answer, it was coming from the energy in the universe, it was virtually manifesting out of nothing. And so that's what this whole concept is about. When you're throwing out a certain vibration, things can be manifest virtually out of, quote, nothing. Nothing is something. It's the energy that's all around us. But did that answer your question about the tumor?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, the bottom line is there is a tumor and there isn't. That is factual and documented. But no one's ever watched the tumor go away. Did it happen in a nanosecond? Did it happen over a few seconds? Did it happen over a few minutes? That still has not been documented or seen.
Because there's no funding for it, you think? Or there's no medical way to not kill the guy with x-rays?
As of right now, the only way you can see the tumor is with an x-ray. So you take an x-ray like that. You can't be bombarding the guy every couple seconds because you can kill him with the x-rays. Any other questions?
Going back to neural pathways.
Yeah.
What you were saying before seems to be sort of a throw to what the bleep do we know and repetitive nature to bring on events that make you have the feelings that you want to have. How do you know, I shouldn't say how do you know, there are people who try to do these things that we talk about and try to change their vibration, try to change what they're thinking about, but subconsciously they're still deeply vibrating.
Fail. Yeah.
They fail. So there are some people, I think, who do this more naturally than others and more easily than others. How do the people who have the biggest trouble with that subconscious doubt overcome that and to apply these techniques?
Good question. The question is, if some people can do this easier than others, some people have a lot more luggage. Right. Some people have a lot more baggage, a lot more subconscious negative garbage. Let me explain what this is. Some people have this huge, enormous ball of black energy because they've been vibrating negatively for a long time. Like attracts like. It's the law of attraction. So if you think a negative thought, guess what's going to be attracted? Another one and another one. That's why gripe sessions. Do you ever notice? You ever go to a group of people? Everyone's, hey, let's have a drink. Let's have a. Now let's. Yeah, you know, such a the Giants, man. That you say something negative, then somebody else picks up on it, and they go, yeah, you're right, and they start saying something negative. And then the other guy says, yeah, you're right, and all of a sudden at the end of 10 minutes, everyone is talking and they're believing all the negativity. So like negative thoughts attract more like negative thoughts. And the more negative thoughts that you're attracting, that you're thinking about, then it gets to a point where it starts developing into negative experiences in your life. Positive thoughts give you positive, more thoughts are attracted, and when more positive thoughts are attracted, positive experiences happen in your life. That's why when you're thinking about buying a car, you're thinking about buying a new car. I'm thinking about buying this new car. All of a sudden you're driving down the road, you start seeing them everywhere. Did you ever notice that? They just kind of popping up because you're vibrating that, so that's what's coming into your experience. So some people have this, that's what people ask me, you know, did you have an advantage? And the answer is, yeah, I learned this stuff when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old. So I didn't have a lot of baggage. So I had early on nothing but positive experiences to keep going back to, as opposed to negative experiences which would create doubt. So some people have this big ball of negative energy that they're kind of floating around with. And they start applying this, and their positive thought is about, you know, itty-bitty, tiny, small. So the big, huge ball of negative black energy has this huge magnetic attraction, right? Because it's attracting more negative thoughts. So they think one positive thought, and it has this itty-bitty, small positive attraction. So they keep getting pulled back to the negative thoughts because this is really, really big. That's why some people are like, they start off negative 100. They're not even at point zero yet. They're negative 100. They're consciously competent. So they have to continue to do this consciously over and over and over and over again until it's like a person's going to go to the gym for the first time. He's 150 pounds overweight. Well, he's going to be there for a year before he can do a lot of the exercises that somebody else who just started with 10 pounds overweight can do, right? So he has a lot longer to go. Same thing here. The person who has all this negative energy, all this subconscious thoughts that's basically bringing them back and pulling them away from this, he's going to have a harder time. The solution to that, there are several solutions. The first solution is, as I talk about on the tapes very specifically, is when you're using these techniques, only use the techniques initially on something you can believe in. Because what most people do, and the reason they can never succeed, is they have all this luggage and all this baggage, and they think that they want something. Even if it's what appears to be something small, they still have doubt that they can get it because of all this black negative energy. And therefore it'll never come in. But if they can use it on something simple, such as, I'm going to go to the store today, and I bet you I'll get a pretty good parking space. You know, I think I'll get a pretty good parking space. Now somebody else may say, I'm going to get a space right up front. But the guy with the big black negative energy, if he says, I'm going to get a space right up front, he immediately doubts it because of all the black negative energy, which means it's not going to happen, and therefore he has another reason to believe it doesn't work. So he has to come up with something that he can believe in first. So he has to go a little bit slower. The idea is you're starting to get your positive ball of energy bigger and bigger and bigger. The more you focus on the positive ball of energy, the negative begins to shrink. So you have two things occurring simultaneously when you're doing this at the conscious competence level. Your positive ball of energy is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why driving in the car, listening to these CDs, reading books every single day keeps you focusing on the positive ball of energy. So every time you're focusing on the positive, the black one starts to shrink a little, and the positive starts to grow. And the tipping point is when the positive ball of energy is for the first time bigger than the negative ball of energy. That's the tipping point. That tipping point is different for every single person. Some people it's going to take a lot longer. So that's the first thing. Start off small. The second thing is the Callahan techniques that we talk about on the CDs where you tap. That actually blows out huge amounts of negative energy. And that's really, really effective at clearing the body, if you will, of these negative blockages. And that's really, really helpful. When a person feels really bad, they're kind of keyed into all this negativity. So at that moment, if they use the Callahan technique, it'll blow out huge amounts. And that's a pretty fast way of doing it. And there's some other techniques as well that we'll be talking about in the future that also helps clear out that subconscious negativity.
Right. And a follow-up is the events in your life are still an indicator. So even if you necessarily think that you're doing these things, you need to pay conscious attention to the indicators and whether or not it's really working. So the follow-up question is there a such thing as an accident?
Well, first off, it is always working. What does that mean? It means whatever happens in your life is caused by whatever you're vibrating. So you can't stop that. You can't stop yourself from vibrating energy.
But what I mean is people need to assess what's happening in their lives as an indicator of whether or not these techniques are working or not.
No, the technique, back up, is based on focusing what is naturally occurring, or taking what naturally occurs and now using it. So what is occurring with you and everybody here and everybody listening to this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is we are vibrating. And that vibration is based on our either subconscious, conscious thoughts. And whatever we are vibrating, whatever feeling we are vibrating, we are attracting that exact thing into our existence. So as you say, there is no such thing as an accident because we are vibrating, creating everything. And some of these things that we're creating are in a flow, in a motion. There's not like an end result here. It's a constant movement because everything is constantly moving. So we're vibrating 24/7. We're creating our experiences 24/7. What I'm suggesting here is, since that is the case, since you vibrate and you create, automatically, whether you want to or not, you can choose to then focus on